Greetings, this is Imaduck, and you are watching Quack Poker. Here we are in another sit and go tournament, $2 sit and go tournament today over on Carbon Poker. Starting off, very first hand you just saw there, me folding a 6-8 offsuit. Big controversial play. Would have flopped a 6. Hey, how's it going? Sorry, I think this episode's going to go up slightly later than I had originally planned. I think I had gotten sick a little bit, and you guys didn't want to hear me sniffling and coughing into the microphone and all that good stuff, so I figured I'd wait until I was feeling a bit better until I could start recording again. So I still been playing some poker in the meantime, nothing too major. Been playing my normal weekly tournaments here and all that kind of stuff. One of the weekly tournaments, weekly cash game I hold at my house. Nothing really notable to talk about on that. I've played a few sit and goes, won a couple sit and goes on this in the past week. I've probably only played, I think I played about 4 sit and goes, and I won 2 of them, so that was pretty good. So let's see if we can do that with one more here. Also played a bit of cash and went up, went down, went up, went down. I think I'm a little bit up on cash this week as well. So yeah, let's see. Have we played with any of these players here? Just let's see. Saruka and All In are 2 players that I see in a lot of these sit and goes here. Both of them tend to play tight. This guy tends to play very tight. I seem to remember about All In is he kind of doesn't really adjust late in the game at all. He kind of just stays super tight even when it gets shorthanded. And so he's someone that we're very happy to have on our left when it gets down to that point, and we can just start stealing blinds from him, or even at this point we could steal blinds from him a lot. Saruka, I seem to remember being a little bit better in that he gets a little bit more aggressive maybe later on, but not even so much. So we're going to keep an eye on those 2 guys. We've seen them a lot. You know, they're kind of regular, so they're not going to make any huge crazy plays, but they are going to be a little bit exploitable with how tight they're playing. Speaking of tight, we will make the fold here, even though it is a pretty suited ace. You start off only 50 big blinds deep in these things, so you can't really open anything, unfortunately. You got to be a little conservative with your stack, and I think ace 7 suited just not the greatest spot to open, especially when we don't know most of the players here. That being said, the guy we know who's super tight is in the big blind, so that should make you slightly more encouraged to like raise and hopefully take it down. But I mean, it would be pretty hard to expect a raise to get through at this point when everybody's got a decent sized stack, so everybody's going to keep playing, and you know, there's a good chance a few people are going to call you, and it's not a great hand to play multi-way unless you happen to hit that nut flush, as it were. So yeah, I've been feeling better, which is great. I spent yesterday out in the hill country of Texas enjoying Oktoberfesty type things, going to German restaurants, and also visiting out in wine country in Texas. This week, I also, to get me in the mood for it is now October, the end of Oktoberfest, but the beginning of sort of the fall, as it were, I'm drinking a nice little pumpkin seasonal from Wasatch Brewery, and they do call it a pumpkin seasonal, not like a fall seasonal pumpkin ale, just a pumpkin seasonal for the season of pumpkins. This is from Wasatch Brewery. They're those guys out in Salt Lake. I think I did one of their other beers a few episodes back, but I've been seeing their beers all over the place now, and I've been a big fan of them. So I've been really happy with their beers, and saw this one and thought, well, you know, I could use some pumpkin beers in my fridge. It is about that time and all that. You know, different people have different opinions on pumpkin beers. Some people like it, some people don't. I will say there's kind of a range of pumpkin beers. Some of them are just barely pumpkin-y, and I've had others that are way over the top, like eating pumpkin pie pumpkin-y. So, you know, if you try one and you think, oh, this is like way too sweet and pumpkin-y, you know, don't discount all of them. There's a whole wide range. I have had this one before, and I think my sort of takeaway on it has been well, first of all, let's see what we want to do here. This guy just limps in. We actually have a fairly solid hand. We could raise it up here, and I kind of think I want to do it. Just, you know, we're deep enough that we can risk a few chips if this goes too bad. But I kind of just feel like, you know, we're going to have the best hand a lot of the time there, and we kind of just want to see how this guy's reacting. He's a few seats away from us, so we might end up in a lot of hands with him. So might as well start testing him now. This flop seems like a perfectly fine flop to c-bet. But when our opponent raises, we don't have any information on them. I don't think there's any reason to get too risky here. Typically, when someone does this, they're going to do it with some sort of aggression in mind. So I'm okay with the fold there. I think all of our plays were fine there. We learned a little bit about how our opponent plays there. that he's certainly still going to call when he's limping like that. But he seems to be one of these players that limps almost every hand he plays, though we're only five hands in. So we'll see how that goes. Here, I mean, we've got the odds. We might as well call for half a big blind. Not that it's a great hand or anything. You could throw it away, I guess, but who knows? Every once in a while, you'll flop 2 pair or flop 5-5 or 3-3 and go hog wild or a straight, or there's a lot of possibilities for 3-5 and for half a big blind. Seen it with a few players. You get pretty good odds to go ahead and see something. But our pair of fives is unlikely to be a best against 3 other players there. So I think this one is kind of in the middle of the road for how pumpkin-y. It's not like super spicy, but it's got a pretty strong pumpkin flavor. They tell you right on the bottle that you should pair it with bat wings and giblets. That's the recommended food pairing. So I don't have any around, but it's something you could certainly try out. This is kind of an interesting spot. I think that we've got the implied odds here just to go ahead and call. See a flop. It's just such a pretty hand. Raising is going to be tough with this many players in the pot. I mean, we could go really big, but at this point, we're just trying to play a little bit conservatively. I've just found playing more conservatively in these sit and goes tends to pay off. So we flop a gut shot and second pair. Not still, we're kind of in a weird spot with this hand here, and this limp just makes it, or this like min bet just makes it weirder. All these calls make it weirder. I think it's really hard not to just call here, but I don't know how I feel about anything about where we're at. This is just very, very weird spot we're in here. Guy checks now. This is kind of just a weird spot. I don't want to burn too many chips here, but it's just really, I mean, our hand is so pretty at this point, it's really hard not to do anything. But now that this guy bets big, if this guy hadn't called, we might consider doing something else. But he's a fairly tight player. He's called here. It just doesn't seem like it could be profitable for us to be calling there. Or if it is profitable, it's only slightly profitable. And we need to keep in mind that, we need to protect our stack a bit. That's a fairly big chunk of what's left of our stack here. So we're still in the safe spot. We're still not like super short or anything like that, So I'm just totally fine with where we're at here. And we saw he bet the river, and then he shoved over top of him very quickly. So I'm going to imagine that he actually probably had a made straight there, maybe, and this guy just had nothing and was just messing around. Because I would think even with like 2 pair there, he'd be hesitant to shove in that spot. And obviously Pirate, couldn't have had much if he just folded that quickly to the shove. So worth noting, I mean, certainly anybody betting out at that pot, you can kind of figure they don't have to be that strong to bet. I mean, he could have bet with a hand that, he could have bet with Jack 8 there. We could have, but it was kind of weird. I mean, just seeing this guy, I feel like we played that hand fine, but I don't think there was much we could do there. I really didn't feel like getting super aggressive and taking a shot. There were just too many other players with too many other hands, and they seemed to be fairly confident in their hands, so I didn't want to go hog wild there. I suppose he could have also made a flush there, Saruka. I don't know. Could have been a lot of things, I guess. But would have been a weird, like, backdoor flush for him to be playing like that. But possible. So yeah, we're just chilling. We're just taking it easy here. Early stages of these sit and goes, you just want to kind of sit back, look for spots. There's always some spewy players. There's always some players who are going to make some bad, silly moves. And so just wait for those guys to bust themselves out. And then later on, once again, we're just going to start putting pressure on. Trying to really mess with people who are really afraid of bubbling out and just try to accumulate some wealth here. Tens takes that down, even though it had a bit of a sweat there on the flop. All right. And how many big blinds were there in there? So not that many big blinds, 27 big blinds. This guy, Pringo shoved raised to 6. And then Mdar shoved. Okay. Just recounting it. Just want to make sure I got the action correct there, as it were. There I go again, saying as it were. So yeah, nothing too new on this front poker-wise. If you saw some of my Magic the Gathering videos, played a bit of that, although now the cube drafts are closed. But I do have one or two more of those to post, so I may go ahead and post those later this week. But I didn't want to post a bunch of those without giving you some poker content too to watch and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in Magic at all, I would say I'm not being very introductory in those, but if you actually know the game a bit, then maybe you'll enjoy those videos. If not, feel free to ignore them. It's just something I find fun to do on the side as well. So nice, slow, relaxing game. La-di-da. We're seeing some people shove out early. Ace queen. This guy calls with 8-9, which is interesting. But he is not going to win, which is a shame. We would like to see some players knocked out, especially players who are playing better. I'd like to see this guy calling with 8-9 to be knocked out there. Pirate Toot says thank you, because yeah, that pretty much was a donation, that hand. I don't think that guy was anywhere close to pot committed. Well, okay, he did raise pretty big. Okay, so he raised pretty big before. He raised to 8.75 big blinds. For some reason, he raised that big with his 8-9 offsuit. I have no idea why. I'm just trying to raise over the... I mean, that's big even for an isolation bet over the guy who just limped. Just doesn't make any sense. Pirate Toot's play makes total sense, and he got rewarded for that, so good for him. And now this guy is getting rewarded for playing more garbage. So this guy just seems to be loose and a little bit crazy. So we're going to keep a bit of an eye on him. Probably not going to bluff at him too much. He seems a bit aggressive too, so I think we're just going to try to win some chips off of him by playing just nice, standard, tight ABC poker. No reason to go crazy, try any big moves against him or anything like that. This might be one of these pots where like the first person to bet just takes it down. I'm going to try to be that person. And there's a decent number of scare cards that can come on the turn in the river too that we could keep betting at. So I think this is a pot we have a decent chance of winning. I'm okay with that. You know, sometimes those little stabby spots, they're only marginally winning, but that's kind of the point. You're not having to risk much of your stack, so it's not going to really make a huge impact on your tournament if you have to, you know, if somebody then raises you and you have to fold there. It's not that big a deal. So I don't mind taking those smaller risks. It's the bigger risks you really got to think about because, again, your tournament life is important. And when you get yourself short stacked, you're not going to be able to leverage your skill advantage once you become short stacked very much. I guess we'll call here. Not spectacular, but seems like a decent flop for us here. I think I'm going to see if anybody wants to bet into it. I mean, I doubt, you know, we're crushed here or anything like this. I doubt we're giving too many. But now we're going to go ahead and raise here. We really want to punish any draws. That bet raise was probably a little too big. I kind of wasn't thinking about that. I should have made that a little bit smaller. But whatever. Turned out okay. I'm not sure if we would have gotten too much more out of it, but we could have made it like 240 or something. But I kind of was a little afraid of seeing some weird scare cards or the board pairing or things like that could really mess us up. So I didn't mind just winning it there, but I think I made that too big because it just scared out any hands that we might get some additional value from, since our hand was kind of disguised in its strength. Here, do we just call or do we raise against this Pirate Toot guy? I think I'm fine with just a call here. This guy doesn't raise very much. So when he does raise, he's probably got something decent, but this board should be pretty good for us. I'm just going to go ahead and bet and try to take it down here. It's pretty hard not to bet here because there's a number of cards that could scare us on the turn or river. You know, aces, kings, queens, jacks even. Don't make us feel great, so we might as well just try and take it down here, or at least try to knock one player out of the pot if someone's going to try to draw at it or whatever. But I kind of expected if Pirate Toot did have an overpair there that he probably would have bet out on that flop. So when he didn't bet out there, I was pretty confident we had the best hand. Though it's certainly possible that someone could have been on some sort of weird draw with their connectors or anything like that. So betting out there just taxes all of our draws, pushes out hands that have some equity against us, ace high type hands and things like that that could hit the ace on the turn. So I think it just kind of does everything we want for us, and we're so rarely beat that it can't be bad. But we're not like a nutted hand, so there's no reason to like try to trap there or anything. Alright, so we've seen this guy make some big raises before. He seems kind of spewy, kind of crazy. Krazen gives us a call after he limped in. So this should be interesting. And yeah, he just takes it down there. I mean, the guy just seems kind of wild and all over the place. So, I mean, we're just going to look for good spots where, he's putting a lot of his chips at risk every time he makes one of those big moves like that. So we just take advantage of that by waiting till we have a good hand and then calling him down. And we're going to be willing to call him down a little bit lighter than we would someone like All In or Saruka, because these guys play so tight that, when they're going in big, they've got something big. Whereas when he goes in big, he could really be doing it with anything. And so sometimes you got to roll the dice a little bit and play a little bit looser so you can take advantage of the times where he's just got nothing there. These pumpkin beers, they just smell great. They taste great. It's just good stuff all around. Guy Pirate shows us that he folded an ace. I'm not sure why, but thanks, I guess. Could we raise here with Saruka in the blind? We kind of could, but with this guy going kind of crazy, I'm not trying to do anything too nuts here. I'm trying to play just a little more conservatively. Ace 6 is not my favorite hand to play when we're essentially seven-handed there. Not that great. And Hot Shot decides to shove this one. And Pirate shoves over top of him. Very interesting. Pirate, when he shoved before, had a good hand, and he's got a good hand again. And Brune also has a good hand. So, yeah, we dodged a lot of nastiness. And look at the 5 just take that down. Very nice. Lucky, yeah. Lucky for the 5s, for sure. I mean, I guess, yeah, so I mean, there was one hand where he got it in good against this guy, then he got it in very bad there and still managed to suck it out. So good on him, I guess. I think his shove there was probably okay, but not great. I think he was just in this weird spot where he didn't feel like calling and seeing something weird with this guy. But you're still gambling there for sure when you shove over top. I think you could just, if you don't want to call there, you can easily just fold, and I think that's fine. I don't necessarily know that I like to risk all those chips, especially when this guy's going to call you a lot, and he's going to have 2 overs a lot, and this guy might have 2 overs a lot, or occasionally even has a pair or something like that. Like, it's not, it's not mathematically wrong what Pirate did there. It's just, again, this question of, do you really want to put your tournament on the line at that spot? Do you need to do that there? I think typically the answer is no. I don't think he was quite short enough to do it there. Well, we can't fold for this amount, but I don't necessarily want to raise either because this guy is not raising very much. So, I mean, I think this is this guy's version of aggression. He just doesn't realize he really needs to raise more to push people out. This flop is kind of annoying, though when he checks, I feel a little bit better about it. And I want to start with a bet here and just kind of see where it goes. At least gives us a decent shot idea of where we're at. We can have the best hand a decent amount of the time. When this guy raises again, like, what is he doing here? I kind of feel like we could just call here because if this guy plays really passively in the turn and river, we can see some free cards that maybe help us figure out where we're at. But if he gives us any more aggression, we're just going to have to fold here for sure. As it stands here, we're just going to check it back. He could also be on some sort of heart draw or something. But I think a lot of the time he's got an ace here. I just felt like he was giving us too good a price just to fold immediately there on the flop, but I definitely didn't feel great about that flop call when he re-raises us there. Um, I don't think he's making this bet on the river with anything worse than us. He might have something like kings or queens or something like that, or he might just straight up have the ace and decided to play a little slow. He could even have something like ace 10, though it's less likely with our 10 there. But in any case, yeah, we're just done with the hand there. I think it's really hard. I wouldn't expect that player to be bluffing there. So all in is a very tight player. So when he raises here, I got to give it a little bit respect. We are a bit short stacked though, so it's hard not to fight here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and up it to 300 and just kind of see what he wants to do. It at least gives us some feel for where his hand is at once again. Um, it's not the greatest spot there because he is going to call with any hand that's better than ours, obviously. And his range does include a lot of hands that are better than ours, but I think there's a decent number of hands that are worse. I think this guy also plays, fairly tight, so I think sometimes he's just folding there. He's got to have some sort of folding range there, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and just bet out on this flop. I think he's folding a lot there, so I mean, I could check back there, but I don't think it's worth it. I think we're better off just trying to take it down there, not let it get any weird. Granted, against that exact player, I don't think he's trying any super sneaky moves, so we maybe could play our hand a little sneaky to try and see if, we could make him a little more confident in his hand, by basically, if we check the flop there, it doesn't actually look like our range hits this flop very much, so our hand looks pretty weak. And then if we bet on a later turn or river that doesn't look very actiony, he'll see that as a bluff, and so maybe we can get more chips that way. But we're kind of asking for trouble if this rolls out and there's like another club and another club or something like that. I don't know. There's just a lot of opportunities for bad things to happen. Occasionally he's going to call us with worse hands. He'll call us with jacks or something like that. It just seems like we're better off just trying to win it there and be done with it. Pirate toot. So let's see, we're down to 7 players here, so we still need to see a few more drop. The average stack here is the average of all the stacks not including ours, interestingly, is the way this software does it. So you can see, though, we're behind most of the other players. And, averaging all of the players but yours is kind of a meaningful statistic. I guess it's kind of slightly more meaningful than averaging yours in there a lot of the time, because you want to just see how you're comparing to the other players and all that good stuff. And so, you can see we're doing a little worse off than the average player, but we're not in trouble just yet. 28 big blinds deep. Not so bad. Not so bad here. So I'm thinking, do I want to open here? These two guys in the blinds have been playing so loose. It's really close between an open and a fold here. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and open. We haven't been opening that much here, I feel like. So this might get a little bit of respect, and we might get to play a hand in position, which I don't mind that either. Now, these two players have been a little crazy here. This lead out here, I don't know what I think that means. This guy's been playing pretty well. It's a really weird lead out. I'm just going to fold here. I'm not sure if that's the best play there, though. This is one of those spots I don't really like. It's kind of a mini squeeze there, but now I feel much better, of course, when Brun called there or whatever, and then I feel much worse when that jack comes. But whatever. It'll be interesting to see what these guys' hands are. This guy's got 6-10, so he's just calling with nothing there. Okay, and this guy's got the heart draw. Yeah, granted, he still had a better hand than us, right? He had the ace-high heart draw, I think. Let's take a look at the hand here. So he had the ace-high heart draw there, so he still actually did have a better hand. So I mean, we did fold when we were behind, so I think all our plays were okay. This guy really is just calling with anything, though. Calling with 6-10 and the small blind there for just no reason. 6-10 suited. And then calling on the flop just makes no sense. So he's just wild, stationy, everything and anything. So good to be aware of. That means that we really just do want to play a little bit tighter. We can't really try anything too crazy, especially with those guys in the blinds, which is why I was hesitant to raise pre-flop there in the beginning, but kind of wanted to just mixed it up a little bit. But that was probably just me being a little impatient and not disciplined enough, so my apologies for that. Um, yeah. So we're happy to see the bad players with lots of chips because it gives us a chance to kind of eventually get those chips from them. I'd rather see bad players with lots of chips than good players with lots of chips, as it turns out, unless the good player with lots of chips is me. Not to say that I'm some great player, but I do okay. All right. What? Something about bots waiting to cash. Uh-huh. Sure. Sure. This guy may be drunk or high or something, so. Or something. He's certainly playing pretty crazily. I'm going to fold here. Queens seems like a good hand. Certainly good enough, I think, to go with it against most of these players here, except for the tightest ones. I mean, I guess against either of the two looser players. Really, most of the players are playing pretty tight at this table, but the two loose players are playing really loose, which just still encourages you to be tight, even though the majority of the table is tight here. Us three gotta play against them. So he thinks some of these tight players are bots or something or something. I don't know. I don't know. You can't even say that as a joke. I have no idea. Anyway, we're going to raise here because Pyrotute. I probably could even raise a little bit more because Pyrotute seems to be calling a lot of things. But yeah. Ding. What do you think, Pyrotute? Oh, no, then he folds there. Yeah, I mean, he's been a little tighter against raises pre-flop, I guess. Been a little tighter against pre-flop raises, but then pretty loose post-flop, I think. It's kind of what I'm getting from him. But I think our raise there was totally standard and fine, and no reason to let him see a free flop with some garbage. I mean, he could easily, we have queens there, he could have like king 4 and spike a king, and why do we want to give him a chance, with that type of hand? King 4 is going to beat our queens, a significant percentage of the time, a third of the time or whatever, so why even let him realize that equity as opposed to just letting him fold right off the bat? Plus, if we call there, we let the big blind in for free and all that good stuff. And there's just a lot of reasons that you need to do that raise there. Here, we could not fold potentially. I think it's actually fine to raise this up here. The two players to our left are very tight, and so we're just playing against Brunigo, and we're playing in position, and the guy's not very good, so we feel like we can play against him pretty reasonably. He's going to call a lot, but our hand's going to be better than his a lot. So I feel like this is okay. I know he's not, but I still don't feel like making a huge raise here because we don't necessarily need to play a big pot at this point. So we probably have the best hand a good percentage of the time here. So I'm going to go ahead and bet, see what he decides to do. I don't think he's going to go too nuts here and raise, but maybe he does some percentage of the time. Is he just going to ship it if we call here? This is a really weird spot. I'm going to go ahead and call it once. I kind of hate this, but again, it's just kind of like I don't know, he might be kind of caging us here because he's just going to shove it always on that. All right, I guess he has it. So this again is sort of like we need to play that a little bit tight or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, so we need to play a bit tight against that guy. I really don't know what's going on there. He seems to be kind of just going nuts and spewing chips at all the points. at a lot of different points. And so, like, ace high is just not quite good enough. We did turn an open ender there, but holy crap. I mean, like, when he just pots it there for basically our stack, I mean, maybe he's got it there sometimes. I don't really believe him, but at the same time, it's just, I mean, he occasionally just has us beat with some garbage that he has by accident or something too. I mean, so I don't know. Maybe not betting the flop is better, I guess, especially if he's bluffing that much, but I don't know. I think I got myself into a little bit of trouble there that probably shouldn't have. But we're still in okay shape. We're just waiting for a spot, and certainly with the way he's playing, we should be able to find some spots. Guy called it down with ace 10 there into a couple of bets. He bet a couple times with nines. And what was Pirate Toot still doing in that hand? Was there a draw there I wasn't seeing? He had like king 4 in the big blind. Let me see here. Sorry. All right, so he had, yeah, king 4 offsuit in the big blind. So he did flop a pair, I guess, bottom pair, but it still didn't seem necessarily good to call. Oh, crap. Now the software's screwing up. Fold that. All right. So he did flop the pair there, and there was a bet on the flop, bet on the turn, and a check down on the river. But I guess the bets on the flop and turn weren't that big, which means calling with your pair is kind of okay. Again, this Bruno guy just calling with, I mean, he had a decent hand, and he did actually turn a flush draw, so his calls kind of make sense there, actually, oddly. So we're still in it, though we're getting a bit short now. 14 big blinds is pretty short, and we are the second shortest stack at the table, but I think we can still find find spots to take advantage of our opponents. Hopefully, if we get some decent hands here. Otherwise, we're going to just find ourselves in the shove flip sort of situation coming up fairly soon here. But let's not get too impatient just yet. We still have a playable stack. You just cannot call here, even if all the other players call. 7-3 is just too bad, and our stack is too short to want to burn an extra big blind to see a flop with 7-3 off. Plus, Crazen is very tight, so seeing him trying to get in the pot usually means he's got something going on. Interesting bet, raise all in, and okay, so Pirates is bluffing it with a smallish raise there. Very interesting. So yeah, we're gonna keep more an eye on this running go guy. Again, because he's the loosest player, the craziest player, so we expect to see him in the most pots, and he's the one who's going to put the most pressure on us and that sort of thing, and put us in the weirdest of spots. So we want to see if we can kind of figure out some of his patterns here, see how much he is just bluffing and those sorts of things whenever we can. Pirate Toot is just going for the open shove here, which makes sense. He's getting short enough that that's reasonable for his stack. And he took it down there. Ace 4. We will go ahead and open. We're not crazy about it. Not quite short enough to shove, but I think it's okay to open this here. Maybe a little weak, but we shall see. And I think we're just going to go ahead and shove over top this here. Seems like a good spot. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brun just call us with 2 overs. Or a worse 4. That's pretty good for us. Are you kidding me? Wow. So yeah, we had him. We flopped 90% equity against him, and he runners for his straight. Well, good job to Brunningo. I thought that was actually a pretty ideal situation for us because I thought he was going to call a lot of time with 2 overs. I mean, he had a pair, so his call was kind of reasonable. Although, I just, man, oh man, oh man. Not fun. Unfortunate. But, yeah. So anyway, thanks for watching. I feel like we played that mostly pretty well. I think I'm just going to do a short episode today and cut it up here. But, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how we played. I think there were a couple spots where we kind of stabby, but I don't think we had a lot of huge opportunities in too many spots. And I think definitely there we kind of played it very well and just did not get rewarded for it. I think I pointed out the couple of spots where I wasn't as happy with my play, but I don't think we made some major mistakes that really cost us the things. Though there were a couple hands we got a little deeper in than we probably wanted to. And I maybe should have just been a little more patient against this guy earlier so my stack wasn't quite as short. Remember, patience really is the key for these things, especially against spewy players like this guy. But if they're lucky and spewy, then you know, you can't ever beat them, right? Anywho, I appreciate you watching. Please like and comment and tell me below if you, or dislike if below, and tell me what you think, if you would have played any of those hands differently, all that good stuff. And otherwise, I will see you guys next week. Adios.